Ever notice how some moments feel like they arrive with a strange sense of timing, as if the world briefly adjusts its focus toward you without explanation? In that quiet space between thought and distraction, it almost feels like everything slows down just enough for you to catch something unusual in the air. Maybe that's why you're here, reading this, drawn in by curiosity you can't quite justify or explain. There's a subtle pull to certain experiences, a kind of mental signal that says something different is unfolding even before you understand what it is. And in this imagined moment, that sense of anticipation sharpens, becoming harder to ignore, as though reality itself is leaning closer for a second look. Somewhere beyond the usual noise of everyday life, a call is waiting, not urgent in the traditional sense, but significant in a way that's harder to define. The screen lights up, the name appearing is unexpected, almost surreal, carrying weight simply because of who it represents. It isn't a message left behind or a missed connection fading into memory. It's active, present, and paused right at the edge of response. The idea alone shifts the atmosphere, turning something ordinary into something layered with possibility. It suggests attention from a place of influence, innovation, and relentless ambition, paused briefly as if expecting engagement from you specifically. In that suspended second, everything feels slightly exaggerated, like the world is holding its breath just long enough for you to decide what comes next, even if it never needed to be real to feel important. Your next move. But here's where it gets interesting. He won't call again. This isn't a sales pitch. There are no do-overs. No. Call back in 5 if you miss him. He's giving you one shot. Because real opportunity, it doesn't do encore performances. I know what you're thinking. Why me? Why right now? I want you to stay with that question, not to answer it, but to feel the weight. Because a lot of people think the biggest risk is failing at something big. But what if the biggest risk is not even picking up the call when it comes? Pause. Ask yourself, really ask, what if the reason you're even seeing this right now is that you're already overdue for your call? You might be scrolling in your kitchen, or stuck at your desk. Maybe you're in bed in the dark wondering if there's more to you than these slow, endless loops of almosts. Someday. Maybe. Not yet. But here's the quiet truth nobody wants to say out loud. Not yet is the graveyard of possibility, and this time, the yet is vanishing. Right now. Take a breath. Hear this. Your name's on his screen. The line is open, but the seconds are melting away. The gravity in this moment is heavier than you realize. Most people won't even notice when their chance is calling. That's how life really works. We're trained to think the important stuff will come with flashing lights and fireworks, some dramatic soundtrack. That opportunity will knock loudly, clearly, and wait patiently on our stoop until we open up with our best self fully dressed and hair in place. It doesn't. It's out here, ringing your phone in the middle of your mess. You're not even supposed to be ready. You're supposed to answer anyway. Pause. Now, don't let comfort take over. It wants to. Comfort is always the first and loudest voice when something wild shows up at your door. It'll whisper that you're not the right person, that you need to wait, that you'll embarrass yourself, that this is just another motivational video, another piece of noise. But let's test that, together. How many people in your life right now do you think would take that call? Really? Who around you is picking up their phone to Elon Musk? Or are they too busy double-tapping endless distractions, letting every important opportunity slide into voicemail, always promising themselves they'll try when they feel more confident, more certain, more ready? Most will never be ready, because being ready is a myth we use to delay the moments that count. Take another breath. Let the world fade out for a minute. Elon Musk isn't calling to give you the answer. He's calling to challenge the questions you're willing to ask yourself. Do you want to keep living in the almost space? Or are you hungry for something on the other side of doubt? The side where the world's rules aren't locked in, and where crazy ideas become reality just because someone picked up and said, "Okay, let's go." Pause. Now picture this. You hesitate. Just for a few seconds, you hold the phone in your hand, thumb hovering, thinking, should I? What if it's a joke? What if I'm not enough? What if I let him down? What if I let myself down? And in that silence, the call disappears, vanished, the energy gone. You saw it, but you didn't act. But here's something you haven't thought about. Sometimes, the risk isn't looking foolish. It's becoming invisible to the future that could have been yours. There's a reason this is happening for you at this exact moment. Not because you're lucky, not because you're the only one, but because you're the one who's listening, right now, while most people scroll by, convinced nothing truly life-changing ever comes knocking. But you're still here, still listening. That's the difference. Pause. What you decide in the next few moments will echo farther than almost any other decision you'll make this year, even in your life, because the moment when you truly pay attention, when you feel your own future tugging at your sleeve, that moment is rare, and rare is powerful. Let this awareness fill you up. You are the exception simply for staying present, while the rest of the world is distracted. The call won't wait forever. You have a window, thin, bright, and closing. The only question is whether you'll step through it. Remember, Elon Musk isn't on hold for the perfect you. He's on hold for the real you. The one who's hungry, restless, stubborn enough to want more. There's nothing left to lose, only a call to answer. You don't need to have it all figured out. No one does. That's the real secret. They just start anyway. The world is obsessed with outcome, obsessed with experts, obsessed with looking smart and safe and put together. But Elon, the reason he stands apart, isn't because he was born certain. It's because he's comfortable living in the unknown. He shows up, answers calls no one else can even hear, and that's why the world bends around him. Take a second. Let that filter through. You're holding the metaphorical phone, your pulse ticking louder. The longer you wait, the thinner your shot gets. But the truth is, every breakthrough starts like this. Messy, awkward. It often feels easier to delay life than to step into it, telling yourself there is always tomorrow, that you will act when confidence arrives, when conditions improve, when everything finally feels aligned. That quiet habit of postponement seems harmless at first, yet it builds a hidden weight that keeps you in a constant standby mode. Over time, that state becomes tiring, slowly draining motivation, weakening belief in what you can do, and turning hesitation into something automatic. Now picture a different moment, one where you respond instead of waiting, where you choose to engage rather than delay. Something shifts internally. Not in a dramatic explosion, but in a subtle clearing of noise, as if a long muted signal suddenly becomes audible. In that space, you may realize the voice you hear is not external at all, but your own thoughts returning to you with new clarity, questioning why you hesitated for so long. The environment feels different too, sharper and more present, as fear begins to resemble curiosity instead of resistance. Beneath it all runs an old mental script, built from borrowed doubts, repeating phrases like, "People like me do not get chances like this," "Failure would look embarrassing," or "Staying safe is better than risking uncertainty." Yet those patterns are not permanent truths, only rehearsed thoughts that can be rewritten once noticed, and slowly replaced with decisions shaped by awareness, rather than fear and present understanding, moving forward always. People who are already asleep to their own possibilities. But if you're hearing those doubts right now, it means you're awake. You're close to something important. Just by admitting you could answer, you've already crossed into new territory most people never visit. Now, what if that call isn't about a job, or money, or something you can even explain to your parents? What if it's about putting yourself on the line, for real, stepping from the version of you who watches others do it, to the version who is doing it? This is where things get uncomfortable. You might feel a twist in your gut, a prickle along your skin, because once you imagine picking up, it's hard to pretend you can't hear the ring anymore. You can't unknow that you were chosen, that you were meant for something louder and wilder than ordinary. Pause. You'll always have a reason to wait. There will always be an unfinished story, another excuse, another day when the stars might seem more aligned. But if opportunity really cared about your schedule, it wouldn't knock in the middle of your distractions, would it? It's here now for a reason. The universe isn't random in moments like this. It finds those who are almost, but not quite, out of excuses. Maybe what you don't realize is the people you look up to, Elon, or anyone breaking rules and building futures. They all started with a simple moment like this, not with all the answers, but with one decision, to pick up when it looked pointless. Let yourself feel that for a second. Every overnight success was a series of missed calls, until one got answered. Let contrast burn in your mind. Most will not answer. They'll scroll, they'll watch 3 seconds, then move on, rationalizing that this isn't meant for them. But you're still watching, still hearing that ring, even as the world dials up the background noise and tries to drown out what could be your most important choice. Pause, ask yourself, gently, what if I answered, and even if I get it wrong, I finally start something that's mine? You might not change the world on the first try, but what if you change your trajectory? What if one answered call tips the first domino, and suddenly you're running on adrenaline instead of anxiety? Let's get specific. Almost everyone asks, how can I not miss my shot? But really, the question should be, what am I willing to risk missing for my shot? Because time, real time, the kind where life pivots, it doesn't come with reminders or extra lives. There's the moment, and then it's gone. Pause. This is why Elon Musk is the one calling, because he gets it. He knows most of the planet never moves off hold. They talk about what they'll do someday, but die waiting for someone to say, now. You're being handed something different, a moment that doesn't come back, a chance that refuses to wait until you're comfortable. You don't have to know where it leads. You only have to step forward and answer while the line is open. Let that ring in your chest a while. It's real, and you're still here. Let me tell you something nobody talks about. There's a sound that exists between deciding and doing, a silence so loud it drowns out everything else. It's the space where most people freeze, not because they're weak, but because they've been taught their entire lives that silence means safety. Stay quiet, stay small, stay out of the way. But Elon Musk never learned that lesson. Or maybe he did, and he threw it in the trash on his way out the door. You know what separates him from almost every human being walking this planet right now. It's not money. It's not intelligence. It's not even vision. It's this. He picks up the phone when it rings. Every single time. Even when the caller ID says, failure. Even when the voice on the other end whispers, you're not ready. Even when the whole world is screaming at him to hang up and go back to bed, he answers. Pause. And that's the part nobody tells you about success, about breakthroughs, about the kind of life that makes other people stop and stare. It's not about knowing what to say when you pick up. It's about picking up at all. Think about your own life for a second. I mean, really think. How many calls have you missed? How many moments showed up unannounced, knocked on your door, and left because you were too busy rehearsing your excuse? I'm not qualified enough. I don't have the right connections. I'll start when things calm down. Pause. Some days give the illusion that life will eventually settle into perfect timing, as if confidence, courage, and clarity are waiting just ahead of the calendar. But that idea is only a story the mind uses to delay movement, convincing you that readiness is something you arrive at rather than something you build while moving. The truth is that no perfect morning ever arrives carrying permission slips for change. It always begins in the same imperfect moment you are already standing in. You were never meant to remain paused, waiting for some version of yourself that feels completely ready, because growth does not announce itself with certainty. Instead, it unfolds in hesitation, in uncertainty, and in the small decision to move anyway despite the noise in your head. Regret rarely arrives loudly. It grows quietly in the background, surfacing in still moments when distractions fade and honesty takes over, and in those moments it repeats a simple realization. You already knew what mattered, you simply delayed responding to it. Now imagine the other path, where you do not perform perfectly, but still answer, even with a shaky voice and uncertain hands. There is no applause waiting for perfection, only the quiet recognition that you showed up when it mattered most. That alone is enough to change everything. Ultimately, progress begins the moment you stop waiting for certainty and choose action, however imperfect, as your starting point today, right now. Let that echo through you, because that's the moment everything changes. Not when you have the perfect plan, not when the stars align, not when fear disappears. It never does, by the way. It changes the moment you act despite the fear. That's what Elon Musk did with SpaceX. The first 3 rockets exploded, literally blew apart on the launch pad. Investors were pulling out. Engineers were updating their resumes. The media was writing obituaries for his career before he even hit 40. And you know what he did? He picked up the phone again. He called NASA. He pitched again. He risked everything again. And the 4th rocket, it flew. Pause. Now imagine he hadn't answered that 4th call. Imagine he'd let the silence win. Imagine he'd listened to comfort when it whispered, "You've done enough." Nobody would blame you for stopping. We wouldn't have reusable rockets. We wouldn't have Starlink. We wouldn't have Tesla in every other driveway. We wouldn't have a man standing on stages talking about putting human beings on Mars like it's a Tuesday afternoon errand. All because he answered. Let contrast burn into your mind right now. There are 2 kinds of people in this world. The first kind sees the call, feels the ring, and immediately starts building a case for why they shouldn't pick up. They overthink, they overanalyze, they wait for permission that never comes, and eventually the phone stops ringing, not because they weren't worthy, but because they trained the universe to stop calling. The second kind, they're messy, they're scared, they don't have a script, their palms are sweaty, and their voice is unsteady, but they answer anyway, and that single decision, chaotic, imperfect, terrifying, opens doors that the first kind of person will spend their entire life staring at from the outside. Pause. Which kind of person are you? Don't answer that with your head. Answer it with your gut. The thing that's been pulling at you since you clicked on this video. The thing that kept you watching when 100 other things were fighting for your attention. You already know. And the fact that you're still here tells me something powerful. It tells me you're done with standby. You're done rehearsing excuses in the mirror. You're done watching other people live the life that was supposed to be yours. You're ready to pick up. But here's what I need you to understand before you do, and this is critical, so listen closely. The call won't sound the way you expect it to. It never does. It won't come wrapped in certainty. It won't arrive with a guarantee. It won't feel safe. It will feel like risk. It will feel like standing at the edge of a cliff and being told, "Jump." We'll figure out the landing on the way down, and every fiber of your being will scream at you to step back, to play it safe, to wait for a better time. But there is no better time. There never was. Pause. Elon Musk didn't wait for a better time to launch a car company during the worst economic recession in decades. He didn't wait for a better time to invest his last dollars into a rocket company that the smartest people in the room said would fail. He didn't wait for certainty, because certainty is a myth sold to people who are afraid to move. He picked up, and the universe answered back. That's how it works. You don't get the full picture before you step forward. You get the picture because you stepped forward. So here's what I want you to do right now. Don't think about tomorrow. Don't think about next week. Don't think about the 10,000 things that could go wrong. Think about this moment. This exact one. The phone is ringing. The call is live. And on the other end is the version of your life that's been waiting for you to stop hesitating and start living. The line is open. You're still here. and that means everything. In a quieter version of life, everything begins to change the moment you stop treating hesitation like a destination. Imagine the noise thinning out, not because the world has gone silent, but because you finally stopped arguing with yourself long enough to hear what matters. In that space, there is no grand announcement, no dramatic signal, only a steady awareness that time does not pause for uncertainty. Opportunities rarely arrive dressed in certainty. They appear as unfinished thoughts, half-formed chances, and moments that feel slightly uncomfortable but strangely important. That discomfort is not a warning, it is recognition. Somewhere in that unfolding moment, the idea of waiting for the perfect conditions starts to lose its authority. Nothing about real change ever feels perfectly arranged at the beginning. It often feels small, almost invisible, like a private decision no one else notices yet everything inside you responds to. The real shift is not external at first, it is internal, a quiet refusal to keep postponing what you already know needs attention. There will always be reasons to delay, always a softer path that feels safer, but safety has a way of keeping life on repeat. Growth, on the other hand, asks for presence, not perfection. It asks you to step forward while things are still unclear, to respond even when certainty hasn't arrived. At some point, you realize the difference between watching life unfold and actually participating in it, between staying close to possibility and finally choosing it. And in that realization, what once felt like risk begins to look more like the only honest direction forward. Pause. It's easy to envy people who grab their chance. It's even easier to convince yourself those people are special, born with some secret code. But that's a story you've been sold to keep you comfortable on the sidelines. The real difference isn't magic, it's movement. Let this settle in. Everyone waits for the right time, the right feeling. But the ones who win, the ones who build things and make an impact and change their own stories, they move when it feels too early, when it's awkward and scary and uncertain. Elon didn't become Elon by scrolling past his own doubts. He let them sting, then he moved anyway. The world remembers people who are willing to move, not because they never felt afraid, but because they acted 1 second faster than their hesitation. Right now, ask yourself, what would it mean to be that person? What would it mean to be the one who answered before the world told you everything you were risking? There's still time. You haven't missed it. The truth is, as long as the call is ringing, as long as you can feel your own pulse quicken in your chest, you're in. But don't lie to yourself. It won't ring forever. Pause. This is your movie moment. But movies are written backward. They show you the ending, and then fill in the beginning. Real life. You only see the next frame if you move. You might not get another shot at this kind of fork in the road. Not today. Not for a long time. The universe gives warnings, then it gives silence. The first is an invitation. The second is regret. Don't wait for the regret. Pause. Here's what happens if you answer. You discover what you're really made of. You learn, sometimes quickly, sometimes painfully, that you can survive making the wrong move much more easily than you can survive making no move at all. You join the rare group of people who have stories, not just dreams, the kind of people who see opportunity for what it is, a disappearing act, beautiful and brief, and always a little inconvenient. And if you don't answer, life continues, the world spins. X. What would it look like if you stopped letting missed calls decide the story of your life? Just picture it. For a few seconds, all the voices of hesitation go silent. The world, in all its noise, fades into the background. It's just you and the line that's still open, humming with potential. Elon Musk isn't waiting forever, but right now, at this very second, he's still on hold. Your name is still on the screen. You still have a shot. There's a myth that opportunity looks like a red carpet, or that it's always easy to recognize when it's your moment. That's not true. Sometimes the only sign is a quiet ring inside your head, a pressure in your chest that tells you, this isn't just another day. This could be your day. It never feels big at first. It's just a tiny shift inside, the smallest change, the decision to stop hitting mute on your own life. What happens if, just for once, you don't wait for the conditions to be perfect? What happens if you just trust the process and answer before the call fades for good? Let's slow down. Breathe in, really slow, then let it go. Feel your shoulders relax. Notice how your mind is scanning for one last excuse to stay where it's safe. But safe isn't why you're here. You didn't watch this far to shelter yourself from every risk. You came because, deep down, you know the difference between almost and actually. Almost successful, almost confident, almost living the life you want. But almost doesn't count, not when the moments that matter are running out. Pause. It's easy to envy people who grab their chance. It's even easier to convince yourself those people are special, born with some secret code. But that's a story you've been sold to keep you comfortable on the sidelines. The real difference isn't magic. It's movement. Let this settle in. Everyone waits for the right time, the right feeling. But the ones who win, the ones who build things and make an impact and change their own stories, they move when it feels too early, when it's awkward and scary and uncertain. Elon didn't become Elon by scrolling past his own doubts. He let them sting, then he moved anyway. The world remembers people who are willing to move, not because they never felt afraid, but because they acted 1 second faster than their hesitation. Right now, ask yourself, what would it mean to be that person? What would it mean to be the one who answered before the world told you everything you were risking? There's still time. You haven't missed it. The truth is, as long as the call is ringing, as long as you can feel your own pulse quicken in your chest, you're in. But don't lie to yourself. It won't ring forever. Pause. This is your movie moment. But movies are written backward. They show you the ending, and then fill in the beginning. Real life? You only see the next frame if you move. You might not get another shot at this kind of fork in the road. Not today, not for a long time. The universe gives warnings, then it gives silence. The first is an invitation. The second is regret. Don't wait for the regret. Pause. Here's what happens if you answer. You discover what you're really made of. You learn, sometimes quickly, sometimes painfully, that you can survive making the wrong move much more easily than you can survive making no move at all. You join the rare group of people who have stories, not just dreams. The kind of people who see opportunity for what it is, a disappearing act, beautiful and brief, and always a little inconvenient. And if you don't answer, life continues. In the quiet stretch between hesitation and action, life often feels like it's moving past you, while you stand still, watching possibilities get assigned to other names, other hands, other chances, and it's easy in that moment to tell yourself a familiar story, that timing was never yours to begin with. Yet for anyone still paying attention beyond the noise, beyond the endless pull of distraction and delay, there's a deeper understanding that opportunity rarely announces itself twice in the same form. It simply passes through and waits for a response that either comes or doesn't. Somewhere beneath all the doubt is a vision you have kept tucked away, not because it isn't real, but because it asks more of you than comfort is willing to give, and it keeps returning in quiet flashes of what could be if hesitation didn't always win the argument. The truth is not wrapped in certainty. It never is. It is found in movement, in the decision to step forward before everything feels perfectly aligned, because perfection is often just another word for postponement. Nothing external is permanently paused for you, not people, not chances, not moments that matter. They move on, they evolve, they end, and what remains is your response to them. The shift happens the instant you stop waiting for permission from time itself and start acting from the part of you that already knows what it wants. In that space, there is no grand announcement, only a quiet turning point where possibility becomes direction, and direction becomes a life that actually begins to unfold instead of being imagined.